on his first day back in office, President Trump signed executive orders. Now, day one executive orders provide a window into a new administration's priorities. Obviously, I can't cover all of them here, but I'll touch on three that, from our perspective here at ADF, tell us the view out that window is very promising. First, President Trump signed an order on gender ideology that turns the federal government 180 degrees away from the lie that individuals can change their sex and back toward reality and common sense. For years, the Biden administration promoted an Orwellian view that gender identity matters just as much, if not more, than biological sex, and tried to enforce that through federal law. President Trump's new order is clear. The word sex in federal law refers to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female, not gender identity. And it recognizes that efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attacks women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. That's exactly right. For years, ADF has represented female athletes deprived of fairness, privacy, and safety when men like Leah Thomas are allowed to compete against them. We've worked with students and teachers deprived of free speech when they're told they have to parrot the language of gender ideologues at school. We've helped parents deprived of decision-making authority for their kids when school officials hide from those parents their kids' school-supported social transitions. And of course, schools have been deprived of funding, all to advance the lie that sex can change. This executive order is a victory for them. The fight is far from over, of course, but this is a huge first step. Second, President Trump signed an executive order directing the end of the weaponization of the federal government against freedom of speech. The order points to, among other things, the DOJ's campaign against parents protesting at school board meetings, and the White House's relentless effort to force social media companies to cancel voices that disagreed with the government's draconian COVID-19 policies. Now, we've seen this campaign up close here at ADF, as the Biden administration weaponized the law against American citizens, including arresting and prosecuting peaceful pro-life advocates under the Federal FACE Act, and colluding with big banks to surveil Americans' private financial data and target them as threats based solely on their speech. We've had the privilege of working with clients whose bank accounts have been shut down on spurious grounds and testified before Congress against abuses of the FACE Act and the Treasury Department's Soviet-style data collection project. President Trump's order begins the important work of shining sunlight on these practices and holding the government accountable for crushing free speech under the guise of ferreting out misinformation and disinformation. Since its founding, America has been a beacon of liberty for the world, as governments across the West have increasingly succumbed to the ideology of wokeism enforced by censorship. It is even more imperative than ever that the United States chart a different course. President Trump is helping us chart that course. Third, President Trump issued an order beginning the important work of uprooting government-sponsored discrimination based on race, sex, and religious belief by ordering an end to the government's radical commitment to DEI. Even while private companies and universities are pulling back on toxic and discriminatory DEI policies, President Biden's administration doubled and tripled down on it and tried to embed it everywhere in federal law. At ADF, we've seen the harmful impacts of DEI and the woke agenda on our clients in schools that have demeaned students because of their race and fired teachers for simply speaking the truth. We've seen it in corporations that step on freedom of speech in the name of ideology. Our Constitution enshrines equal protection under the law, and it's time for our federal government to follow that command. President Trump's orders is a major step in the right direction. Now, of course, this doesn't mean the fight is over. Far from it. This is round one. And while President Trump crushed it out of the gate, now is the time to carry the ball forward and fully implement his orders throughout government, in the law, and in society at large. ADF has been doing that work for years, and we look forward to being in the fight together with President Trump for the next 4 years on these important issues. Thank you very much.